All right, welcome back. Now, uh, even though I'm using the same video that I used in a most recent live stream, I want to point out that it's not just Tariq who is like this. It's everybody. It's like literally everybody who came up on the panel. And I had somebody in the comment section as well who say, yeah, you're mistaken, that I'm mistaken, and that this is a problem, them starting a whites only community. So I wanted to respond to that crowd again. And as I respond, I want to point out or ask, is FBA ideology taking a hit? Now, I don't think it is, because I see a lot of people in his comment section disagreeing with him. And, he seems to have the most influence over FBA in FBA circles, but a lot of people, his comment section is riddled with people who disagree, who just say, hey, I don't care. Who cares? But I feel like this is like the worst take. This is like the worst take possible to this whites only town that they built. And this is like a pivotal moment in history, to be honest with you. This is a historic moment for, there to be a whites only town after, I don't know how long, where that's been against the law, or we just haven't seen anything like that. We haven't seen whites only anything. That's something we've only read about in history books and seen on old films. Whites only this, whites only that. But now in 2025 we have a white only something, and it's a white only town that they built from the ground up. That's deep. That is deep. And we have to be careful about how we respond to it. See, all our life, we've been just talking about the Jim Crow era and giving our opinion and, saying how we would have responded to it if we existed back then. If we were alive back then, we talk about how we would have responded to it. Well, it's happening now. So I'm paying close attention to how people respond to it. And I think this response, to have some type of like full-on rejection of it and say that it should be turned down, and that's the only way you respond to it. That's the bigger problem. That the only response you have to it is how it should be shut down and how it's, will lead to violence. Okay? Now, this white guy on this show makes a point here that I want to respond to. Listen to this.
But the logic I'm attacking is, if it's private land, what is the issue if they were to go ahead and exclude based off the privacy of the area, basically?
Because whenever they do that, there's always an incident of violence. That's just like I said earlier.
Okay, so shut it down. The idea is shut it down. And that if you are off to yourselves as white people, you're going to become violent. So the best place for you is in an integrated society. Now you see the thumbnail. And I mean that. What I wrote in the thumbnail. Tariq quotes Dr. Frances Cress Welsing often. And I believe the only way you can have a system of justice is to have a system run by FBA, by Black Americans. The dream for all Black Americans is to have a government that truly worked in their interest, a police department that genuinely operated in their best interests. We don't even know what it feels like to live in a world like that. We've only known a world where our government is fixated with finding ways to have food affect us negatively, more negatively than it affects other people, to have medical malpractice, to destroy our businesses, towns, to constantly attack us in every way possible. We only know of a rulership that treats us like enemies. The goal for this system of justice has to be an FBA governed society. But you cannot have that if you are also saying that whites can't congregate by themselves. Because the true discussion that we should be having is, okay, boom, let's make our own blacks only city that we govern, okay, that we police, just like they're doing. This essentially would be like these Indian reservations where they have their own police force and everything. Wouldn't this be the closest thing to justice? Because what's your alternative? Are y'all really saying that y'all trying to replace a system of white supremacy with a system of justice and have the same people running the society? You want these same pre-vetted Masonic white supremacist old decrepit males up in there? You want them same stock of people up in there, and you expect them to govern society based on justice and equality? No. We got to remember that if you make a living off racism, then you want racism to always exist. You don't ever want there to be a way where you get what you ultimately want and you won't have nothing to complain about. Okay, if your views, for whatever reason, because a lot of people do this. All the people on his panel was like that. You heard that guy who came, I think it was that Randy Short guy. He compared them having an all-white town to us having reparations within integration. And this is actually like the argument that they put up. The woman that got on here, Dr. Short, Tariq, the argument that they put up was a pro-integration argument. That we need to stay in an integrated society. And the fact that these whites have created a whites-only town, we will not have a discussion about a blacks-only town, because we don't want that either. Because that would basically create the same scenario that a whites-only town would create. And that is that we are completely separated from white people. So if you're against a whites only town, then you must be against a blacks only town. Because what if all blacks decide to live in a blacks only town? Then again, you got the same thing, segregation. And Tariq was literally arguing against segregation, like he was against segregation. even though this is not an example of segregation, this whites only town is, like I said, that's separation. That's complete separation. They're not going to be using public nothing. Segregation is where the white fountain was right next to the black fountain. The white waiting room was right next to the black waiting room, etc. It was all out in the open, and it was in the exact same society. That's not what this is. That's not what these whites only towns are. They're just whites only. Only whites can live there. So all the people in this comment section, they're going to reflect on this. They're going to eventually reflect on this. You're not going to take it down. It's already put out there. How can you avoid reflecting on that? The fact that this is a fight for integration. What if we complain about white supremacists and not knowing who is and who ain't white supremacists or white supremacists, then how can we ever have true peace in this country in an integrated society? How? Make that make sense. If the end goal is to try to guilt shame whites, guilt shame white supremacists to maintaining a system of justice for us as what, like a favor or whatever, then that's a pipe dream. That ain't gonna never happen. Okay, so and remember, Tariq said he is not a leader, and I believe him, and people should take him. He truly isn't. He's just a film producer who hops online and gives his opinion on things. I hate when people try to make him to be anything more than that. Anybody, this could happen to anybody. You could make a film, a low budget film, and it blow up. Then, you become a public figure. Then what? You hop online and talk your talk. Share your thoughts. The fact that a lot of people gravitate behind him and support him means nothing. All that means is that a lot of people tune in to listen to him. Okay? But this to not only, so it's a combination of two things. You object to a white only city, and on top of that's bad. And on top of that, you fail to talk about a blacks only city, which, if you truly after a system of justice, wouldn't that be like the beginning of it? That would have to be seen as the start of it, as the foundation of it. The fact that, hey, okay, let's take advantage of this. Because had whites not done this, had this whites only town, and we came out first and said, hey, we want a blacks only town, we know that would be targeted. But now it'll be more difficult to target a blacks only city because whites have already kicked it off. But we know that they would. But who cares? Who cares? That should be what we're talking about, because that's the only route. That's the only logical, realistic route to justice. Is it not? Is it not? And isn't that the ultimate goal? To live like normal human beings? That's not, rather than people who always have traps set for them, who are always targeted, and all this type of nonsense that drives people crazy. Come on, man. The argument against this argument that, hey, whites are going to go out there and become violent is unrealistic to me. I am not worried about these white folks out there, even if it becomes large scale.
Basically.
Because whenever they do that, there's always an incident of violence. That's just like I said earlier. What
Yep.
What if some black person wanders over there by mistake or just happens to go over there and all of a sudden they're going to do what they used to do during Jim Crow? They start killing and lynching and then justify it by, oh, he was.
Man, don't they do that now? Like, as if integration would stop that. They do that now. I'm sorry, but the smartest way to respond to this in this era is how a bunch of other people responded to it. I don't care. Good for them. How about we get our own? Now, somebody else mentioned the possibility of an all-black town, an all-black male town, and that's a good question, but it wouldn't last. It would last for like a generation or two. But if it's an all-black male city, then only non-black females would be there, right? And say we have sons with those women. What are we going to only have? What will we do? What will we do with our daughters? We send our daughters out of the city. You know what I'm saying? But I understand where that's coming from. You want to live around people who you're most comfortable with. I'm most comfortable living around responsible, on-code black men. That is who I trust the most. More than anyone, any other demographic. Black women, white men, white women, Mexican men, Mexican women. I don't care what nobody say. Remember, I said civilized, on code, hard-working, productive, responsible black men. That's who I trust the most. So I can understand the idea of an all-black male town. And if there were something like that, I would be straight up moving there. I would move there in a heartbeat. If there's certain criteria, just like this town, where let's say you have to be hardworking, yeah, let's say you have to make a certain amount of money, you have to have and this is exactly what they're doing with this white town. They're vetting the people who become members of this town in the exact same way. We have to be able to check your history, your work history, everything that you're into. Make sure you're not some pookie selling dope, gang banging, trying to squeeze up into the society. Bring our own women, because listen, and let me say this loud and clear. In an all-black city, no, that wouldn't work. That would, black women, we would still think about that. We would still be at war with black women. No black women allowed. No Keishas. No Keishas. They'd be setting brothers up, pinning brothers against each other, starting trouble, trying to be the boss, refusing to hit the gym, being non-productive, right? Not wanting to work out, wanting to sit around and eat, and all that kind of stuff. No, that's part of what's been giving black men hell. At this point, black men need to look out for themselves. We dying on average in our 50s. Think about that. Dying off allegedly through natural causes. Ain't nobody looking out for our best interests. Anybody who co-signs with the idea of us putting up with any kind of stress is out of their flipping minds. I'm sick of living for other people. where other people walking on us and looking down on us at the same time. No, enough of that. I'm sick of existing like that. All my life I grew up seeing black men like that, and I always made a vow I'll never be this way, where I'm just being taken advantage of my whole life and never being appreciated, being looked down on all the while I'm supporting primarily somebody else's quality of life. No thank you. No thank you. And it's about time we start living for ourselves and looking out for ourselves. If any female of any race want to get down with us, they're gonna have to get on our code, get on page with us. Ain't no more financially supporting women who try to disrespect and fight and emasculate us on a daily basis, be disrespectful in any way. Okay? It's past time we reject that type of pathetic existence. And these men around the world have always looked down on us operating like that with women. That's a big reason for their disrespect of FBA men. How we let women walk all over us, disrespect us. They see it. They see it. Yeah, enough with that. And I grew up seeing black men like hurt by it, but just taking it. Disturbed by it, uncomfortable with it, but just taking it. And then back up the next morning, working hard, busting, getting injuries, working long hours, putting up with the racism at your job, putting up with people constantly trying to make you look bad, tarnish your image and reputation, your work ethic, constantly trying to get you fired, trying to project you as low IQ, and dealing with pure racism at work all day, only to come home to a nasty home, some chick being rude, nasty, and disrespectful. No, thank you. And it's pathetic that black men have to simply basically beg women to be nice. That's basically all black men say. Hey, be nice, be respectful. You can't even do that. That's a problem that you have. So blame yourself for black men wanting to cut in. And let me be real for a minute. It's at the point where that is what black men should do. Say enough is enough. But we're not messing with any black women. We're done with all of you. You don't want to respect us? You really have a respect phobia when it comes to us? You want to somehow look down on us? After generations of black men been laying down their lives for you all? Yeah. And there's a lot of black Americans are religious. And they would say, hey, God would never want anything like that. They was, you know what I'm saying? They would say, hey, God wouldn't want that. How do y'all know? How do you know that? God is sophisticated. And I would argue God would do something like that. If nothing else gonna snap you some sense into you, send the men to cut them all off. I could easily see something like that in the Bible. Tell my people, my men, to tell the women that they're done with them. That they're done with them. See if that snaps some sense into them. See if that wake them up. And if it don't, oh well. Because you are a liability. There's no reason why we should be dying in our 50s, having heart attacks, strokes in our 50s, have the lowest life expectancy, even though we got the strongest organs. Do you know the amount of stress we must be under to have conditions, living conditions like that generationally? Man, please. Y'all better find somebody else to talk to. At this point, black men ain't got no other direction to go but up. Evolve from this pathetic state. Think about it. It not long ago, just yesterday, was considered natural and normal for us to take care of other men's kids. Multiple baby daddies' kids. That's been our reputation. I grew up watching it my whole life. And those men who were doing that would be disrespected every single day. Treating us just like straight up dirt. Like dogs. Just admit it. That's how we've been treated. Generation after generation. I'm talking about black Americans. Black American men. That's what we've been going through up here. I grew up seeing some of the worst types of disrespect that as an older man now, I reflect back, that was insane how bad this black men have been disrespected. And it makes sense when you acquire a group of women who were like used as breeders. Yeah, it makes sense. Now it's your culture to take care of a bunch of baby daddies, other men's kids, and you to be getting disrespected the whole while. Enough of that plantation relationship. And Keisha, if you don't understand that, then just chalk that up as something else that you don't understand, along with the fact that you in your Becky wig and you still in that plantation mindset and all that nonsense. And I'll leave it there.